I did not know what sober people did all day when they weren't drinking, because that's what my entire life was. If I wasn't drunk, I was thinking about when I could get drunk next. And if I couldn't afford it, I was thinking about what I could do so I can go afford it. I'm Kyle, and I'm an alcoholic, but I haven't had a drink in over 2.5 years. It's an absolute miracle for me, because I used to drink every single day and I would hardly draw a sober breath. Alcohol wasn't always the problem for me. It actually started off as the solution. When I was a kid, I was bullied a lot through like elementary school and middle school, and I couldn't really find a way to be okay with myself. Some of my first attempts at trying to feel right with myself was like video games and self-harm, but they never really brought me the relief that I needed. I remember in 8th grade, I finally had a small group of friends, and they were all gonna go off after graduation and drink beers in the forest. And I was raised with like overbearing parents, so I was pretty nervous that I was gonna get caught and get into trouble, but I wanted to fit in more than anything else. I was excited and nervous, and I had my first beer, and that was the only time in my life that I only had one beer. But the second time that I drank, it was slightly after my parents got divorced, and we got drunk, and all that self-loathing went away. I finally felt like I fit in with other people. From then on, it was just like, you know, something I do with friends, and alcohol had become my solution to my problems. A little bit afterwards, alcohol's little magic stopped wearing off as much, and the depression like started coming back again. Eventually, like, alcohol made the depression worse. I had mentioned that I had been self-harming before, and I started doing that again, and one day I tried to take my own life. I was put in an ambulance, I was off to the hospital. They were asking me all these questions about my drinking, and I lied because it was the one thing that had worked for me. They put me into a psychiatric unit, and my friend's like, Kyle, you might have a problem with alcohol. If you want to go to AA, let me know. And I said, no, you don't understand. In there, I learned all this stuff about mental illnesses, and this is what my problem is. And I drank again that night. I was in college at this time, and I was like failing half of my classes every single semester. And I decided like, hey, I just really need to take a semester off to kind of work on me. And I didn't work on me, I just drank more and more. And my dad found a new wife to marry. And he says, all right, Kyle, we're gonna move into our new house, and you could come with us, but you can't drink there. If you drink up there, you're gonna have to leave. I got kicked out of their house, and I got sent back to live with my mom again. And this time we're both drinking. It was just a toxic household. And this is like probably like the lowest point of my life. I was just making everything worse with alcohol, and I was desperately looking for anything that would fix me. So I'm about 24 years old, and I get kicked out of my mom's house for the first time, and she says, okay, you have to sleep on the street for one day, and then you could come back. So I slept on the street for one day, and she's like, how was it? And I was just grumpy, and I went back. Next time she caught me drunk, she said, okay, now you're on the streets for 2 days, and the next time it's gonna be 3. And my life was completely unmanageable at this point. I heard somebody tell me about a place called Midnight Mission in Skid Row, and he said it's a completely free treatment program. I had exhausted all of my resources, so I decided I was gonna give this Alcoholics Anonymous thing a try. They would take you on these vans from Skid Row to the west side of LA, which is like super rich. Once again, I was in a room of Alcoholics Anonymous, feeling like a complete outsider and feeling like I couldn't relate to anybody in the room. I had holes in my teeth because of all the cavities. I was completely sunburned. I was like overweight, and I'm looking at all these people who have their lives well put together, and I'm looking for somebody who's gonna help me. And they would like have these classes at the Midnight Mission, like how to get a sponsor. Sponsor is somebody has been in Alcoholics Anonymous for a while, who understands what the steps are, and who's gonna help you for completely free to try to turn your life around. I couldn't actually ever remember feeling pure joy, because from the time when I was a kid to all of when I was an adult, I felt like I was like maladjusted to life, and I couldn't deal with what the world was giving me. So it was super helpful to have somebody in there that kind of like understood it, what it meant, and who had been through it himself. And as I slowly like tried to like, you know, put the pieces back together in my life, for some reason I just held on, and I held on through it. A little bit into my sobriety, my mother had passed away. She actually drank herself to death. Not everybody makes it out. I'm grateful that the AA is there for people who need it, but not everybody who needs it gets it. And it's one of the hardest parts, because it took me a while to like fully understand that AA was working for me. So eventually I finally found like my people. They're my family now. One suggestion that was told to me is if When you're feeling bad, turn your thoughts to somebody else that you could help. And it has always worked for me, because that entire time I was drinking, trying to fix myself, when I was trying anything to fix myself, I could never do it. When I started focusing on how I could best serve somebody else, that's when my life started turning around. That's when I was happy. I don't speak for AA as a whole, but just like from my personal experience with it and all my aversions to it, like when I actually just finally gave it like a little bit of a chance, that's when it worked for me. I would highly recommend anybody who thinks that they may be an alcoholic just to go and like maybe just check out AA. Even if you don't want to stay there, you'll always know where it is if you ever want to go back in the future. The Western Area Conference of Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous is the conference that I'm on. I was completely surprised about how many other people like around my age were actually sober when they had previously had terrible problems with drinking. I always thought I was just going to be the odd one out with old people in a room, but really like I found like my best friends in there. I found the people who I spend all my time with in AA. I'm super grateful today because today I do have a job, and I've had the same job for almost 2 years now. I have a place that I live, and I've never had my own place to live in my entire life, and it's the first time in my life I've had that. I have best friends that I could tell anything to, and I get to spend all my time with, and I have just like so much love in my life. I have, and I finally have peace. I feel I finally have serenity. If I could go back in time, I really wish I could have gotten this sooner, because there could have been so much suffering that couldn't have happened. And I wish I just had like more insight that alcohol isn't this like big scary thing. It's just like, okay, it's an indication of action that needs to be done to be fixed.